Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tizenghausen. It's May 4th today. Here's the top news at this hour. Ukrainian drones have reached Moscow and St. Petersburg. Major news: a Ukrainian drone hit one of the symbols of Putin's Moscow, a building on Mosfilmovskaya Street. I checked the map. It's 6 kilometers from the Kremlin. And I've been reading comments from Muscovites. Let me read one to you. A drone hit the high-rise on Mosfilmovskaya. The sound of it flying past was heard, then a loud explosion that shook the windows in nearby apartments. It was terrifying to experience. I'll never understand why this cruelty is happening. No words. Everyone is suffering. What is this even for? Can't they just let everyone live in peace? Why? These are rhetorical questions, of course. Questions started popping up when drones began hitting Tuapse, Perm, Yekaterinburg, Moscow, and when the internet started being cut off, when Kharkiv, Odessa, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, and other Ukrainian cities were hit. No questions were asked. The war was somewhere else, very far away. But now, look at this. What's the point of all this? I'm just speechless. Not just Moscow, but St. Petersburg also saw Ukrainian drones today. A comment from there. I live in Petrogradka. At 3 a.m., the walls shook and my mattress vibrated with a tremor. A wave. See? Wow, that's quite vivid, isn't it? The wave was physically palpable. Don't even get me started on the sounds. Terrifying sounds like thunder, but aimed right at you. Wow, look at that. The SMO is simply coming home to its native harbor. How did Putin put it? Except it's not Crimea. It's the SMO returning. It's not at all like it used to be, right? See? It was so good before, wasn't it? They bombed Ukrainians, and Ukrainians couldn't bomb Russians back. But now, these naughty Ukrainians have churned out drones and are launching them at Russia, ruining the enjoyment of watching the war on TV. Now everyone can see the war right outside their window. So what's important to understand? A few crucial points from the fact that a drone last night. We'll get to what kind of drone it was and why Russians now need to find the nearest basement very quickly. A few important points. First, as I have said in previous programs, the most difficult period is only just beginning for Russians. Second point, additional air defense systems were moved into Moscow for May 9th. Russian media reported on this and showed photos. And they all missed the drone while they shot down 2 others, but they missed this one. 6 kilometers from the Kremlin. And now, of course, operators will analyze the route, the Moscow air defense algorithms, and everything else will be adjusted as needed based on the lessons learned. The third important point. Our drones essentially exposed the air defense systems of St. Petersburg and Moscow last night. And fourthly, Ukrainian drones have one remarkable quality. If they don't finish the job the first time, they'll come back and finish it the second, third, or fourth time. Tuapse certainly won't let me lie about that. And now, as they say, the icing on the cake, or in this case, a real watermelon, a huge Kherson watermelon on the cake. This drone was an FP1, and we are mass producing these drones. So the first drone will be followed by hundreds more. They'll be visiting Russians in swarms. Now sleep tight after hearing that, Russians. You see, Russians were worried there wouldn't be a parade rehearsal. Well, there it was. Only the aerial part of the parade, which you cancelled, will be provided to you by the kind Magyar. Don't worry, you definitely won't be left without an aerial display. And another report from local telegram channels. Special forces with machine guns, sniper rifles, and special equipment are stationed on literally every tower, wall, and building of the Moscow Kremlin, local telegram channels report. And the underground bunker dweller is clearly terrified. Security measures in Moscow are simply unprecedented. A real collapse has occurred at Sheremetyevo. Do you know what the passengers are complaining about? Huge, hours-long queues? Not that the airport was closed. The queues are massive. Do you know why? They've cancelled the green corridor. Everyone is being searched thoroughly, even those who should go through the green corridor. Some are being searched twice. They're afraid, terribly afraid. It is afraid, like in the cult movie Starship Troopers. They're afraid someone will smuggle a small drone in a suitcase and it'll fly right into Putin's balding head during the parade. Mobile internet will be down in Moscow from May 5th to 9th due to security requirements. Well, who would have doubted it? Operators have started sending out warnings to subscribers. And not just in Moscow, I think they'll cut it off in the Moscow region too, and maybe even further. By the way, it's unknown if whitelists will work during these days. What's the point, Putin? Jam everything. Internet, electricity, water, just jam it all. Apparently, they've decided to just shut everything down out of fear that something might hit Putin. Oh, they're afraid, terribly afraid. In general, Moscow before May 9th should have been a showcase of greatness, a parade of victory mania, an image of an eternal empire, you know? But instead, there's air defense, jammers, searches, extra searches, closed corridors, internet blackouts, and fear, a creeping fear that sneaks into hallways, into the Kremlin, and flows down into the bunkers. And an unexpected conclusion, perhaps. Putin, for the sake of an image of strength, showed an image of weakness. That is, he turned Moscow into a city of restrictions. He wanted to show May 9th as a symbol of control, but gets a demonstration of fear. The more they jam the internet, the more they search people in Moscow, the more air defense they bring in, the clearer it is to everyone, the system isn't sure it controls even its own capital. But after the strikes on Tuapse, Perm, and Moscow, Russian bots will crawl from there into the comments here and start writing. They always do that. You'll definitely see them in the comments under this video. They'll write that now you'll get a response. There will be a retaliatory strike for you. Just you dare. Well, listen, for Ukrainians, nothing will change. You've been bombing us since the very start of the full-scale invasion. Missiles and drones will keep flying at us, just as they are now. But now there in Russia, Russian cities will burn. For Ukrainians, the situation, well, won't change at all. But for Russians, it will change drastically. And it will get even worse. It definitely will. Meanwhile, Putin today replaced the head of the Aerospace Forces. Instead of Viktor Avzalov, Alexander Chaiko has been appointed. It's clear why he replaced him. The Aerospace Forces are also responsible for air defense. A total failure of air defense in Tuapse, Yekaterinburg, and Chelyabinsk. So Putin decided to swap one commander of the Aerospace Forces for another. Well, what can the other one do? What can he possibly do? By the way, before Avzalov, there was Surovikin. Where is Surovikin now? Where was he exiled to? To what part of Siberia, tell me? How will this new head of the Aerospace Forces solve the problem with air defense and Ukrainian drones? Does anyone even know? I think not. This new Aerospace Forces commander, Chaiko, by the way, once commanded the group that advanced on Kyiv from Belarus. How that ended for that group, I think everyone remembers. And many probably remember before they cleared the Zhytomyr highway of burnt Russian equipment, how it stood there in entire columns, burnt equipment, where those occupiers burned up. They then fled through the Chernobyl forest, scrambled out of here. Well, now this Chaiko, who commanded that victorious retreat, will command Russia's Aerospace Forces. Peskov announced an important speech by Putin on May 9th. The whole world is waiting for this, and it's justified, the mustachioed hussy reported. What is the whole world waiting for? Putin's speech on May 9th? How he, like some big spider, will be all wrapped up in anti-drone nets. What is the whole world waiting for? What are your versions? What could he possibly say there? He'll choke on it 10 times saying, we were duped, deceived, cursed NATO, Anglo-Saxons, Ukro-Saxons, and also Pechenegs, Polovtsians, and Great Russia. That's what he'll say. But by the way, that's not all. In Bashkortostan, near Ufa, another oil depot caught fire today. So, well, I think preparations are underway for a big gift for the underground commander. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We're fighting Putin's propaganda here. Let's do it together. So be sure to subscribe. It helps promote the channel. And another important point, while Putin is trying to somehow protect the Kremlin, protect himself, trying to protect Moscow, Ukrainian warriors are performing a real feat. They've stopped the Russian offensive and are destroying the occupiers on an industrial scale. In every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the Defense Forces of Ukraine. Today we are starting a fundraiser again for the first separate medical battalion, for the first Med Bat, which you already know well. Fundraising for a lung ventilation machine. It's exactly these machines that are catastrophically lacking at the front for forward surgical teams. And our guardian angels, the first Med Bat, recorded a video message for you, friends. Please listen.
Апарат штучної вентиляції легень – це не просто медичне обладнання, це шанс на порятунок та життя для пацієнта. В умовах бойових дій, де потік поранених часто є раптовим і непередбачуваним, таких апаратів потрібно дуже багато. До того ж, вони мають властивість ламатися та виходити з ладу від високого навантаження. Разом із каналом Бориса Тізенгаузена ми вже зібрали на 4 таких апарати, але цього все ще недостатньо для передових хірургічних груп нашого підрозділу. Тому ми оголошуємо збір ще на 2 апарати. Ми щиро дякуємо Борису та його глядачам за допомогу, небайдужість і увагу до питань порятунку українських захисників.
Let's help our combat medics. In this case, your donation directly saves the lives of our defenders. And in every episode, I say a huge thank you from myself and from hundreds of our warriors whom you've already helped. Thank you so much. Together, we are a great force. Remember that. A post from the commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces with the call sign Madyar. I saw today, and I've shortened it to just a few sentences, the most important figures. Madyar provides. In short, for 5 months straight, the balance of Russians arriving versus leaving the front has stayed negative due to drone operations. That is, from December 2025 to April 2026, Russia sent about 148,000 of its ghouls to the war. 33,000 in December, 20,000 in January, 25.5 in February, 34.5 in March, 35, and 2/10 in April. Meanwhile, confirmed losses from drone strikes alone for that same period totaled 156,735 occupiers. This is just incredible. All this data is recorded in the Delta system based on video confirmations. And additionally, about 4,651 more ghouls were hit by artillery with confirmation, meaning real losses could be higher by 20% at least due to cases without video recording, under rubble, people not found, and so on and so forth without further reconnaissance. Thus, for the 5th month in a row, think about it, the 5th month in a row, the number of Russian losses exceeds the amount of reinforcements. This is what directly reduces the enemy's combat effectiveness. The systemic use of drones has simply fundamentally changed the situation at the front. Great figures from Madyar and honor and praise to the unmanned systems forces and other branches of the military, certainly. To everyone who is defending our Ukraine, simply, well, true heroes. The US moving to the Middle East, the US will provide escorts for merchant ships blocked in the Persian Gulf due to the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump announced this and he called it Project Freedom. Its implementation begins today, on May 4th. If this humanitarian process is somehow obstructed, then unfortunately that interference will have to be countered with force, Donald Trump stated. And Trump noted that those ships stuck in the strait are merely neutral, innocent bystanders running out of food, running out of fuel. In short, they need to be rescued. And here, perhaps, there are more questions than answers. How exactly do they plan to escort them? Well, how and why weren't they escorting them before? What was stopping them before? It's likely about the classic convoy operation, the same one the US Navy last practiced in the Persian Gulf in 87 to 88 during the tanker war. So back then, the Kuwaiti tankers, what happened then? The Kuwaiti tankers, they changed their flags to American ones and escorted them through the Gulf with destroyers and frigates on either side. The mechanism is the same now, meaning probably 1 or 2 warships, most likely also destroyers, take a commercial vessel under their wing, as they say, and escort it through the strait. There will be air cover over the convoy, either from an aircraft carrier or from land bases in the United Arab Emirates or Qatar. Simultaneously, electronic warfare systems, reconnaissance drones, and so on will be operating. But what about the Iranian Mosquito fleet? It's such an asymmetric, a very unpleasant asymmetric thorn in the side. This is a real problem that Project Freedom might not solve. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has a fleet of over 1,500 small combat units, boats, high-speed boats like the Pekap or Iranian equivalents, kamikaze vessels, including remote-controlled ones, boats with various turrets. Some can even be unmanned. In short, sea-based kamikaze drones, the Guard Corps has all of that. Considering that, for example, each missile used to hit such a boat can cost around $2 million, while an Iranian boat is many times cheaper. So this fleet will sail out of various small bays, crawl out of different holes, and start attacking ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. What do you do with them then? Basically, in a narrow strait, this will be a major problem. And it's exactly this scenario with this mosquito fleet attacking with dozens of boats from different sides that American admirals call the nightmare in Hormuz. I mean, they've been calling it the nightmare in Hormuz since the 80s. Iran knows about this. The US knows that Iran knows. So what's the move here? And what if Iran announces the mining of the Strait of Hormuz? What then? It's just such a, nuclear asymmetric option. And it could fundamentally change the whole game. I mean, one official statement is enough. We've mined it. We don't know where the mine is. It broke loose. Find it yourselves. That's it. Insurance companies immediately stop coverage for ships passing through the strait. Global tanker rates skyrocket. Commercial vessels obviously refuse to go even with an escort of American ships. To go, the captains aren't suicidal. Anyway, there was a historical precedent, but it looked a bit different. In 1988, an Iranian mine damaged an American frigate. And after that, the US conducted a super operation, simply the largest naval battle since World War II. They destroyed half of Iran's surface fleet in a single day. But Trump has already said that he destroyed the Iranian fleet. Anyway, Iran remembers this. So they'll likely resort to mining or threats of it only as a absolute last resort when there's nothing left to lose. But the threat of mining as a tool is a very real trump card. So Project Freedom isn't a military operation. It's a diplomatic ultimatum wrapped in semi-humanitarian rhetoric. In other words, Trump is sending a signal. We're starting, but the door to negotiations is open. Iran will either let the convoy through and then de facto the absence of a blockade will be established. Or they'll attack, and then a major problem could come their way. But then news comes in that Iranian missiles hit a United States Navy ship. This news broke literally an hour ago. United States officials immediately denied this information. United States Strategic Command is also denying it. Not a single United States Navy ship was hit. United States forces support Project Freedom and ensure the maritime blockade of Iran is maintained. So whether there was a ship or missiles, nobody knows for sure yet. But the United States says no, while Iran says there were. So a disinformation war has already begun here, along with an information war. So we're watching, but as soon as the first ships go under convoy, everything will become clear. I think the situation will heat up to the limit. By the way, oil prices have started rising again following these statements. And today, the mayor of Tuapse distinguished himself again. Let's return to the Russian Federation. This is the same mayor who said that it's not Russian oil burning in Tuapse, but that Ukrainian drones are dropping oil, which then burns. Well, quite a storyteller, quite a character, the mayor of Tuapse, Sergei Boyko. So, do you know what he declared today? That assessing the consequences of the fire at the marine terminal and refinery, well, it's still premature. And the holiday season, it will happen. It's in full swing. All Russians are welcome in Tuapse. Everything they show you is untrue. What an optimist this mayor is, after all. In principle, he's right that it's too early to assess the consequences. Not everything has burned down yet. Does anyone really doubt that if drones have flown in and hit the oil depot 4 times, they'll fly in a 5th time? Does anyone doubt that where there were 4 times, there will be a 5th? And as for the infrastructure, being ready for the season, Russians, they're showing you some nonsense, but you should send your families there. And the families of Russian officials, and the families of State Duma deputies, and the cabinet, and the presidential administration, send them right there. Just like that, all the families packed up and went to Tuapse with their kids. Let them swim there. Let them set an example. But no. Russian officials and their children will be vacationing in France or Italy. But this country, Russians, where black rain falls, where everything is ablaze, where drones fly, they've ruined this country just for you. So enjoy it. As for you, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And I'm asking you, please, let's help our combat medics. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.